Here.
Roberto Castillo.
Present.
Jarrell Green, absent. Rose Mesa, absent. Akia Sanders, absent. Michael Scherzer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We're going to go to public comment. Any public comments right here? No? Okay, no, we don't see no public comments, and we're going to move to the next. Item number 4, we're going to do approval for the agenda.
Madam Chair,
President action?
Allison McCormick for the record. Given that our Parks and Rec Director, Nancy O'Connor, can't be here this evening, I'd ask that you remove item 6.3 from the agenda.
I will call to remove from the agenda. Let me open the agenda. I apologize. Oh, it doesn't open. Okay, I have the agenda here. Okay, so we're going to adjust the agenda because one of the presenters is not going to be here, but we have 2 wonderful presenters. I'm going to possible action to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, it's working now. Motion to approve. Who wants to give the motion to approve? Michael is, Michael, yeah, Michael is moved that, and the second, Titran.
And if you can make those motions.
You gotta read it.
verbally.
Okay. I move to approve the agenda by moving item 6.3 from the agenda.
T-Tran, second.
Michael Scherzer for the record. Sorry.
Okay, we have all 4 votes in favor. So the result is passed for move the agenda with the change. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have 2 good presentations today. No, see, I told you. Oh, approval the minutes for possible action.
Roberto Castillo, for the record, I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, very good. So, motion to approved by Titran, also second.
Roberto Castillo, for the record, I second the motion.
What?
No, you moved by
You did the
Tran.
move and then,
Tran was the first one, and Roberto Castillo seconds, okay? And the result pass. 4 yeses, thank you. Ahora sí, we're going to go to the presentation. If you want, we're going to have the first presentation is going to be University of Nevada, Reno Latino Research Center. And I go to the document, and it's the doctor. I'm going to present, she's a fantastic young person who really engaged all the students for UNR, especially Latino, but all the students. So, okay, I can open this. Jacep, would you like to introduce yourself, Jacep?
No, mine.
Is it listed now, I think?
mine didn't either, so.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jafet Sanchez, Director of the Latino Research Center. I'm so excited to be here with you all as members of the Sparks Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board. So I'm here as an update for the Latino Research Center. And as you know, you were super supportive of some students in last year's endeavor where we sent several students to a United States Hispanic Leadership Institute. And we just started a few weeks ago, so I didn't want to task our students with coming to this, but I know we had said that we would bring them back, and so by the end of this academic year, where one of them specifically who you sponsored will be graduating, I do hope that we can come back and bring them to share their progress. But I'm here to share the progress of the Latino Research Center itself. As of January 2023, my role switched to where 80% of my time is dedicated to the work of the Latino Research Center, and 20% is still to my College of Education and Human Development, which is where my expertise is from a research perspective. But our research center, just as a friendly reminder, focuses on serving as a nexus between the Latino community and the university, and it emphasizes these 4 specific areas in its mission, which is on research, faculty collaboration efforts, student achievement, and then advocacy and outreach. So we're highly committed to that work. Historically, the Research Center functioned under the College of Liberal Arts, so a lot of the things that it took on were events, cultural, artistic endeavors, which is great, but it's a Latino Research Center. So with me coming into this position, I've really focused on ensuring that the work that it conducts, while it lies within this part of the mission, that it really centers on being an entity that supports the work of the community from a research perspective. So in that sense, it's super important for everyone to know that it is the only Latino Research Center in the entire state. So in terms of potential and capacity, that's huge in creating information and products that really serve to inform entities like yours and others across the state and beyond. So I wanted to share some things that really tie into the first part, which is on research and grants that will support this mission. And so there are several that are ongoing that are funded, and then there are several things that may not necessarily be funded, but we're carrying them out. The Community of Bilingual English-Spanish Speakers, it's only one of 12 grants in the entire country, and it's centered on supporting individuals who will pursue a STEM or health endeavor. And previously, this was carried out in Washoe County, and we worked to really outreach broader. So we have a partnership with Lyon County, where then with our students on campus, they will serve as mentors to those in Lyon County with that intention of, reaching from the institution outward to others versus what oftentimes is expected of the reverse. And we also are working on a National Science Foundation grant on racial equity in STEM, so still STEM-oriented, but the focus of the Latino Research Center is, again, enhancing this linguistic, multicultural perspective in that effort. And we're hoping to partner with several individuals. One, the Gwynn Center for Policy Priorities, so that we're bringing their lens into the policy perspective of things. We're focusing on the Latino largest population in the state that we see is increasing across locally and then across the state. And then with the main group being Sierra Nevada Journeys, who has carried out a lot of STEM work in the area. So that's one example. That one's in the work. That one's not awarded for the record, but it is a $5 million grant if it were to be awarded on being able to conduct research that helps to identify ways in which those from underserved, historically marginalized populations can access STEM programming and see that as part of their STEM lens and career. Another one that I have that is very national perspective is Latinx faculty departures. So we see increasingly across the country that students are enrolling at higher rates who have been from marginalized groups, but we don't see that same representation of the faculty like me. So when I went to UNR a decade ago, I found 2 people who I could identify from a racial ethnic perspective. And when I heard them speak Spanish, I was like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else here who speaks Spanish. And thankfully, that's not the case. The university is approaching 25% racial ethnic demographic, but the faculty does not represent that. And already the institution does not represent, so we just continue to see that is a piece where there is need to identify why faculty are departing. So those acronyms you see there, IUPLR, is the Inter-University Program for Latino Research, which is 25 additional institutions across the country that we're partnering with on identifying why faculty, if they do make it to higher ed, why aren't they retained, or what is happening culturally, or what is happening within the system that's having them potentially depart. That's not a huge amount of money, but the findings and the outcomes from that can really be impactful. And that's something that I want to ensure that our entities know, that these small things of information really can have huge impacts. The other one is a Dimensions Language Structure Grant, which focuses on identifying a comparison group where in Mexico we can conduct some research with children who are 6-year-olds to see how they process information and how their language structure pace is different than somebody who is bilingual here, which can then impact how we're thinking about curriculum in school settings, or how we're creating expectations on reading by grade 3, for example. And then we have a lot of fact sheets coming about. So if you think of the Pew of Hispanic Research or just the Pew Research Center, other things like that, that you can see information regularly and that's valid and credible, that is what the Latino Research Center is doing. So we have a fact sheet coming out on Latinas in the workforce that gives a broad perspective of what we're seeing, but then narrows in on what we know is the need within Nevada and even more locally with ways to support their efforts, what are the barriers, what can we do, and then what are the recommendations to better support this particular focus. We also have another one on AI and impacts on the Latino community, which honestly, the impacts can be on every community that's been historically marginalized, and it comes from the focus of the digital divide that has already occurred, and now we introduce another layer to that. So we have communities in our area that are just barely gaining trust of using something like Facebook or other social media avenues. And now we're introducing this other concept. So it really just engages what that conversation entails for such communities. We also are doing a more increased job of partnering with other experts. I'm not an expert in every area. My expertise is literally in education and educational leadership, but we have so many phenomenal experts across the state. And so we have other fact sheets that are coming out in partnership with different collaborators. So the mental health vulnerability in immigrant communities is from someone in social work. And then the Latinx doctoral pathways is someone who focuses on advising in college and higher education. And then understanding the Hispanic serving institution, that's a report that's coming out of our Latino Research Center to help demystify more of what it means for an institution to be Hispanic serving, and showing that it doesn't cater to one group, rather it opens up opportunities for funding and opens up opportunities to ensure there is equity with those who do attend our institution. So those are the key pieces that I want to just really highlight on the work that has happened. And then we have quite a bit of other non-funded research. That means I don't have a grant to support the work, but we're carrying out the work. And so for this one, we're working with Truckee Meadows Community College on their Men of Color program, which helps to mentor students with access into their institution, but they're seeing that they're not enrolling at the rates that they would have been expected. And so our role is to identify the reasons as to why that may be an influence, or what may be an influence in college access. Within our own campus, we're exploring why faculty who are there, why they might have an additional need to conduct research that does benefit the community, that does support the mission of a land-grant institution. And then exploring job attractiveness. There's a study on teacher narratives from teachers who are in many Latin American countries like Colombia, Argentina, Mexico, and the US, and just examining their narratives and how that can influence the curriculum and the teaching aspects that we see occurring in our own levels of education. And then an immigrant demographic study. This one is in conceptualization stage, so I've partnered with a few other experts who have an immigrant lens so that we can just get a basic level of demographics. What does that look like within our county? What does that look like at the state? What does it look like by region, possibly? And then what are their voting preferences? What are their status needs? Do they have access to healthcare? If they don't, why are they not? So those are all questions that have come to me now in the time at the Latino Research Center, that we just need to see that as having a strong sample population that is reflective of the general population, that reflects these types of groups. And then we have a Borderlines journal. This is an academic journal that has existed for nearly 20 years, where many scholars contribute to the work in this journal. And the focus over the next few sessions of the series will be on Hispanic serving institution. One, because it helps support the need that we see is in our state. And then two, it just gives scholars an opportunity to explore that from this context of, a potential Borderlines focus. So there's a call out for that. And this journal, a lot of people didn't know about it because it was a literal hard copy. So we were very committed to making sure it got updated to 21st century aspects, and it is fully online now, and we're trying to make sure every article is online, which also benefits the scholar who is published in this work, and it benefits the community because it's fully publicly accessible. It doesn't have a paywall, which a lot of academic journals also have. So that's something that we worked really hard to establish. And then I mentioned the faculty collaboration. So these are just a few noted areas where we have some research endeavors occurring and some partners, but this is ever growing, and that's part of what we want to show, that we're here to serve many entities and many communities in support of what our mission is, and also just demonstrating that it's not just Northern Nevada, it's not just Washoe County, that it really can be broader than sometimes what we think could be. And then on student achievement, so that picture that you see on the top right, that is where, with your funding, we were able to send students last year to this incredible event that exposes our youth to leaders, representation, civic engagement, and then leadership skills so that it can empower them into their future careers. And I'm really excited to bring some of them back, as I was mentioning a few toward the end of this semester for them in the academic year. But we do have a very active Latino Student Advisory Board, and they carry out various events on our campus to help to support engagement. And they were part of the first Nevada Fit session. So that corner where you see the lateria and they're kind of peeking through that frame, that is a very traditional game that is played. It's like a form of bingo. And at that event, we had over 170 students, if I'm remembering correctly, first coming in, incoming freshmen to attend this event, which was titled Ponte las Pilas, Getting Together. So it was all about like, let's figure things out from the get-go when you're coming to our institution rather than trying to figure out how to navigate it. But they were extensively involved, and that's not the only group. So I mentioned other groups that we collaborate with on campus who allow us to bring their voice to the platform of different things that take place. And so in that regard, that does include a lot of advocacy and outreach. So I just applaud you all for asking me to come here to give an update, because it just is really important on having the space and place to have these conversations. And while I can be in certain places at many times when I get invited, it's just really exciting to know that you're creating that opportunity for so many others. And sometimes while I'm asked to be the voice for those many others, I think it just serves in modeling that they can come at any time as well. So I thank you for that. On our advocacy or outreach, aside from coming here and doing updates like this, we do have some various platforms that we're also amplifying. So we have a newsletter that we have fully worked to redesign so that it does focus on the research that is being conducted, so that we can highlight information that is leading to impacts, and so that we can measure impact also in that process. We have a resource guide on our page where anyone from the community can come and visit and see different places that might help them as a Latino Spanish speaker be able to get information on whatever may be of interest. And we update that once a year. So it's an ever-growing list of valid information for them. And then we have an active presence on social media. We're focusing really hard on making sure things are in English and Spanish. Our university page is one of the few that you can click a button and it'll actually switch to English and Spanish, which is really important for our community. And then we have a podcast, Latino Insights, that is existed in terms of identity and background, but it's really shifting in as a source where we will be able to provide information from our expertise or about our fact sheet or about our report on something, so that it'll be a continuous way of being able to show and highlight what is occurring. And on the nonprofits and engagement with others, again, this is just an example of sharing the names of some who come to us and want support or want partnerships or want to engage in certain ways, and our effort in bringing some of that together. But at the same time, we have been historically underfunded. So it's something where I think about the awesome work that's happening, and it's happening without having been historically funded. And so those partnerships are important. But the Latino Research Center is approaching its 20 years. So I'm super committed to starting a fundraising campaign that helps to show the impact of what has happened over this 20 years, and it helps to show what the potential is, so that investors, private and public, and other entities will be willing to do that. And it's a very long donation page, but I just wanted to put it on there for the sake of public access. But I do hope that there will be mailers, and there's a crowdfunding page, which is like the university equivalent of a GoFundMe page for various things that we can do that will support our students through scholarships, those who maybe don't have access to federal funding so that they can get access to scholarships, our research projects, because I have a lot of research projects. As you can see, that's just a few of them, but people always ask me, who funded that one? I'm like, nobody, we just did it. And so that's just the exciting part about all of this. And we are just a group of 3. So it's the director, I have a coordinator, and I have an admin assistant. So I think from that side of it, it's really valuable that we have entities like you excited about the work that we're doing and who invite us to just share the work that we're doing. But as you can see, there's more things coming that you will be able to use in your own application of the work that you're carrying out. So I thank you for the opportunity. And I invite any questions or comments or thoughts.
Okay, this is Alvara Diaz for the record. I said, I really admire how much things this group, Latino Research Center, has been accomplished. Have you been included, like the younger generation, even the parents, even the community. I go to meetings with Latinos where I never see UNR, and you're always there. So could you tell us something, like, this is on YouTube, in Facebook right now. Maybe, can you say something maybe in Spanish for those parents who are afraid to send those kids to UNR?
Sure.
And tell them that you're here to support them, that this group exists and is really supportive, makes a difference, and the education is really important.
When we did that student event, we actually contrastingly did a parent event, the Latino Parent Welcome. We had over 150 first-time parents who had students who were joining the institution attend this event, and President Sandoval was there, the provost was there, our VP Michael Flores was there, and it was all about saying, we've been there. President Sandoval said, my daughter had to go off to college, and I know what that feels like, regardless of demographic and everything else. And so it's just an important way that we would really wanted to be intentional in engaging the Latino parents. So with that, in repeating that, le damos la bienvenida a todos los padres hispanohablantes para que puedan venir a la universidad, ya sea la universidad o otra forma de educación superior. So we welcome any Latino parent who is Spanish speaker to our institution or other form of higher education institution that is a fit to them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Roberto Castillo for the record. So, are you guys familiar with NAREP at all?
Roberto, no, I am not.
Okay, so it's National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals.
I met somebody who did real estate, and I asked him for a report, and they sent me, so it might be that acronym. I just wasn't recognizing the acronym.
So was it a pretty big report?
It was a digital report, but yes, it was extensive, and I was using it from the side of wanting to ensure that we report on housing and income needs and things like that, yes.
So I would tell you the report is fairly robust in more so than just real estate. And it really has to do with upward mobility, education, where dollars are spent. It's the third largest GDP in the world, the Latino influence internationally. But I would tell you probably to look at it or reach out to the group, because everything is always predicated, and I say this on this board, it's money. Everything is money. They have a large pool of money that's dedicated to doing a lot of the research that maybe you guys can integrate some of the already funding that's spent to get the information. Some of the stuff that they've even done for Nevada showcased one particular status that showed that Latino families are one of the lowest populations that move out of Nevada. So as a lot of people feel that Nevada is very transient, where people move in and out, the Latino families don't, which is pretty cool if you really think about it, because what it does is it does a couple things. A, the return on investment for an institution like yourself, for every dollar that you put, it's a dollar that's going to be replicated because it's going to be staying within the community for jobs, for medicine, fire. We've had the fire department here and talked to them as well for that. So I would definitely invite you, if you ever want to take a look at that report a little bit more in depth, because there's just so much data that has to do centrically with Latinos and how much they mean in regards to dollars for the direction, everything, because everything is funding is based on how much return. And then the second thing, just a local funding, it sounds like you got a good momentum, so I really applaud you. And obviously inviting people to come, the parents to come, getting 170 people to any event is a pretty good undertaking. I always say if you can get 10 to 15, you've done a good job. 170 is a 10 multiple of that, so great job. But
Thank you.
there's easy ways to, even if it's $1,000 per event, to do a poker night or a car wash or any one of a number of different ideas for that anybody can support. Let us know. We'd love to add anything that can help bring awareness and camaraderie, and also help fund some of the things that you guys are doing pro bono. Sounds like it's a lot.
I welcome that, so thank you.
So great job with that. But I've been here since '84, and Northern Nevada has absolutely given my family a great deal of ability, and it starts and ends with education. So, whatever we can do to really support that, just let us know. Because I think half the battle that we have up here sometimes is understanding what we can do to help you guys move forward, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask you also, for me, testimonies or storytelling are very important so people retain something. We were talking about Noemi, one of your students. Give me a good successful story that you remember about some of your students that maybe live in a small town, moved to go to college, and probably is going to go to Vegas. So something like that so people feel inspired. Testimonies talk a lot. Thank you.
Previously, you heard from Dennis Garcia, who was working on becoming an educator, and he mentioned how with your funding, he went to attend USHLI, the United States Hispanic Leadership Institute. And when he came back to report on his experience, when he shared that he was re-energized at that event, especially after his mother had passed, that was my first time hearing it. So when you talk about impact, it's just a reminder that the students carry these things and these situations, but they're at heart committed to everything that they do, and it's so powerful. And then for another one of our students, Nayeli, she's a student within our Latino Research Center as well, but she's part of the Latino Student Advisory Board. She was recognized by Nevada Women's Fund and received some funding from them to pursue her post-secondary education. And at that event, she shared with the group how she comes from a low-income family background. She's the daughter of a teen mom. I think her mom was maybe 14 and has since, pursued post-secondary education with her family having very little understanding of what that entails, coming from a rural community, and now she's about to graduate and she's planning to pursue law school. So we were discussing going to Las Vegas for that, which when you talk about retention, that's a big step. To go from a rural community to Reno was enough, let alone now having to leave all the way to Las Vegas. To some, it doesn't mean much of a distance, but to that family and community, it is a huge thing. But that's the part of the culture that we're building. And we have students who come into our office every day. Somebody asked me yesterday, if you're not here and I have a key because I'm part of this other group, could I just open the door and hang out so our groups could get started on our homework? And I'm like, why am I going to say no to that? So they're seeing it as just a place where they can come for community and can do their work. And it does impact retention, as you're saying, not only retention for their degree, but that long-term retention where it's an investment in our state.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing
One
that.
last question, Roberto Castillo, for the record. The one thing you were saying about staff, and I was actually thinking back at all the years, that I went from 5th grade through high school here, and I only really remember 2 names. Mrs. Peña, which was my ESL teacher at Greenberry Elementary, and Mrs. Nichols, who was a Spanish teacher at Reed High School. But I can't really recall a ton of faculty that were bilingual, and I know a lot of people. Can you give us a little bit of insight why you think there's a lack of?
Something that I say when it comes through K through 12 education in terms of having representation in that area is that we've seen that it's historically been underfunded. So when you think of other fields like nursing, for example, who we may argue that they're not paid enough as well. But when you look at that comparatively, the educator salary has stayed stagnant as compared to the nursing salary, for example, or the firefighter salary and things like that. So it just hasn't kept up to pace in showing what is required of an educator, while the demands, the federal mandates and things like that have increased what they're required to do in the classroom in terms of wraparound services beyond the being an educator instructor thing. So that's one. But the other one is that in an effort to diversify, with those many demands, when somebody sees, anybody who's in education has always said we do it because we want to make a difference, which is true. I was one of them. I was a math teacher, so I can speak to that. And I was a Spanish speaker, and I was really excited to do that. And I worked here in one of the most diverse schools, which is Hug High School. It was the first Title I school in the entire state, which required free and reduced lunch for all students on campus. It was the only high school to do that at first. And so with that, I knew that I was feeling a need and that it truly was to make a difference. But when we come from an underrepresented background, having just enough to live is not sufficing. You know, we want to ensure that we see generational wealth and that we're building generational wealth. So I think a lot of communities who come from historically marginalized, underrepresented low-income family backgrounds, they are being advised or they're choosing to ensure that that's going to be their situation in the long run. So for me personally, I looked at the salary scale of where I would be in 20 years, and I would be at $65,000. I started at 45 with a doctoral degree. And so it just wasn't fitting for me to stay there if I knew that I wanted to have my family come out of this poverty level that, you know, I had lived. And so from that perspective, I felt really guilty that I contributed to the statistic of leaving education. But, you know, in that leap, I got to the $65,000 starting salary, and then from there grew. And so I'm very open about that because I see how it is reflected in the research and the scholarship that we do in education, but I also lived it personally.
Yeah, I would say, Roberto Castillo, for the record, one of the statistics that came out a few years ago about how demographics of negotiation styles is very different from male to female is one of the biggest causes of despairing differences in how
The
they're being paid.
workforce, yeah.
Yeah, so I would definitely tell you that I appreciate you sharing that with us because what doesn't get mentioned doesn't get resolved. And the more people understand that that's a thing, because I think a lot of people, like student loans, they get into a student loan, they don't realize how expensive that thing's gonna be after 4 or 6 or 8 years of doing, you know, going to the universities, and they don't have an understanding of the impact of 8% interest rates or 9 or 10, but they just signed the dotted line. So, you know, you sharing that, and I think you sharing that a lot, probably will make strides in helping, you know, up-and-coming
Yeah.
dedicated professionals to provide a better gauge of what it would mean. Because again, money drives a lot. It shouldn't drive everything, but it unfortunately drives a pretty big spectrum of why people make certain decisions. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you. And in the private sector, I mean, that is something I teach in my own ed leadership classes, that females are less likely to negotiate their salary, or they're less likely to apply to a position where maybe they see one qualification doesn't meet theirs, and whereas the counterpart will see that they don't qualify for 4 things, but they'll try anyway, and then they get it. And so I do mention those disparities, but in K through 12 education, you can't really negotiate your salary. There's like the base of what it is for the years of education, and then you move along that. And so that also has created challenges from a salary side. It's a tangent to the conversation, but much so related, yeah.
Any other question? Thank you so much for even sharing
you for
that. I'm
having
so
me.
impressed. I'm
I'll
like,
keep coming back if you'll have me.
yes. we need to organize you and art increase those salaries for teachers. And we are in the Sparks Equity, and we need to be equitable. We need to go.
And we
Fair.
do have, the university did hire a director of Hispanic Latinx Community Relations, so hopefully I can bring him over at some point. His name is Osvaldo Jimenez, and so he's a way to support the Latino Research Center is that a lot of the events that we have led, now that work can be led by the engagement side so that we can focus on research and producing this information to help entities like yours. So
Thank you so much.
thank you, gracias.
Muchas gracias. We're going to have the next presentation. This is a young person to One APA Nevada. We have Colleen, and Colleen is going to talk about what is One APA Nevada. Go for it, Colleen.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to hear me present today. I am excited to introduce our organization and tell you all about the work that we've done and the work that we plan on doing this year. My name is Cullen McGinnis, and yeah, we are One API in Nevada. So we are a 501c4 nonprofit organization, and our mission statement is to advance the interests of all Asian Pacific Islander Americans in the state. We do this through grassroots advocacy on issues such as access to healthcare, education, immigration reform, and language access. Nevada is home to a rapidly growing Asian Pacific Islander community, and we believe that our community has the power to be the voice of change in the state. So how we got here. One API was born from ACDC, as I'm sure as you guys have gotten an introduction from my esteemed colleague, Dr. Hong, back here. So ACDC started in 2016, and between 2016 and 2018, ACDC ran an ambitious voter registration and civic engagement program. And from there, we began to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of this civic engagement? What is the point of enfranchising our community if we don't use our voice to achieve tangible benefit for ourselves? So from that desire, One APIA was born in 2018. And since then, we've worked tirelessly to increase turnout for our community and elect API representatives, and also use our platform to advocate for policies that benefit us directly. So in 2018, we knocked on 30,000 doors and called almost 57,000 people and texted 35,000 people. And our outreach up until this year the vast majority of it has happened in Clark County. So one of our goals for this year is to really make this a truly statewide organization and to pursue a more ambitious outreach program in Washoe County as well. So this data from Target Smart modeling shows that the API population share has been increasing in Nevada very rapidly. So between 2018 and 2022, the percent increase in API ballots was 22%, which is very significant, and we believe that this trend will continue. So here, I know it's pretty small, might be hard to read, but basically this exit polling data shows that not only is youth turnout increasing, but API voter turnout is also increasing. So we can see here from 2018 to 2022, voters between 18 and 29 increased their turnout by 1%. It dips in midterm elections. Voter turnout is always higher in presidential elections, but even to have this growth between two midterm elections is very encouraging for us. So why API Nevada in 2022? We try to do our outreach in a culturally competent in-language way. We have 14 different languages that we do our outreach in. We focused on all parts of the ticket, every office, and this results in the expansion of API representation. So we have currently 7 API representatives in our state government, and we hope that we will elect even more. So in 2022, post-primary, they knocked on 43,000 doors almost and called 260,000 people. So we are going to continue this ambitious outreach this year and maybe get even more. So here are some examples of ways that we've reached our community. So we do mobile billboards and language mail. We also coordinate with API in-language newspapers. And we also outreach and canvas in 14 languages, like I mentioned earlier. So here's an example of that. This is sort of what our mailers have looked like in the past. And you see here we have examples in Korean, Mandarin, Thai. So we tried to make this as inclusive as possible. And the point of this is many members of our community have felt disenfranchised, sort of like their government doesn't care about them or listen to them. So the point of this is to show that, our community has a place in our political sphere, and that our voices deserve to be heard, even if maybe we're not English proficient. So total 2022, before and after the primary, they got a total of 509,000 phone calls, 206,000 texts, 73,000 doors knocked, and 1,000 pledge to vote cards. So Sparks specifically, it's roughly 110,000 Sparks residents. 6% of them identify as API, so that's roughly 6,500 people. So the API citizens of voting age population is approximately 3,900 folks. So we believe that while this might seem like a small number, this is still a very politically significant population. And our goal is to create political power for our community, so that way representatives and our politicians know that we are paying attention and that they should support policies that benefit us. So our community growth. Here we have our AAPI legislative caucus. So roughly in all of Nevada, we have about 240,000 APIA voters. We're about 10% of the electorate. And we have 7 representatives. So you can see at the top there's Senator Nguyen. She's the first Asian American in the state Senate. At the bottom is Ruben De Silva. He is the first Indian American in the state assembly. So yeah, we're gonna keep doing this work until there's not so many firsts. So 2023 AAPI Lobby Day. So this is probably the most ambitious, the largest event that we did last year. We had over 120 attendees from all over the state come to the state capitol, 50 plus meetings with the legislators, and they lobbied on over 10 bills relating to language access, healthcare, education, and other issues. And yeah, it was the largest lobby day, API lobby day in our state's history. So I have hyperlinked here our legislative scorecard. I won't go through all of it, but one bill that we are proud of particularly is AB 73, I believe, sponsored by Assemblyman Ruben De Silva. Basically, this bill changed the rules so that students, when they're graduating, can wear cultural clothing, and they don't have to wear a specific, traditional graduation outfit. So, yes, that was something that we were proud of. And yeah, that is all as my contact information and our website if you would like to learn more, and I will open myself up to questions.
Elvira Diaz for the record. Colleen, can you tell us, now we're streamlining Facebook, talk about young people, how important is for the young people to register to vote, to participate. The voice is really loud, and how you can help them so they can learn about democracy. Thank you.
We believe very strongly that young people will be the voice of change in our state. It is super vital for our democracy's health that young people stay engaged. Last year, I was proud to work on ACDC's voter registration program. We registered over 800 people in Washoe County. And I think part of increasing voter engagement among the young people is to make sure that they feel like their voices are heard and that they are empowered. And oftentimes I feel like this requires people to focus less on maybe the big ticket offices and more on their local and state politicians and things that are happening more locally. And I feel like by enabling people to, perhaps encouraging them to provide public comment on a certain policy, or encouraging them to come, to a protest or come to a meeting with a, city councilman or state assembly member, that we can really ensure more participation from the youth.
And one question, do you have any training for people who wants to run for office for the API community? I'm sure you guys have a training.
So we don't have a training program per se, but we do try to encourage Asian Pacific Islanders to run for office. And we like to connect them with resources from other organizations that perhaps have more of a training infrastructure than we do.
And that's what I was going to point out. I noticed you don't focus only in one group of people, you also engage Latinos. You're very open just to engage everyone. And also, I saw you in a church giving chips to me. I went there and I was like, I remember I was so hungry because I was mobilizing people. And you gave me, here's chips, Alvarez, okay? Thank you. You focus more in the service, in the contact.
Exactly. So yes, we do focus on building power specifically for the Asian Pacific Islander community, but we believe that a lot of the policies that we fight for benefit other marginalized communities as well. So a big part of our work is also building coalitions with other communities.
Thank you. Anybody has questions for Colleen? Michael?
Roberto Castillo for the record. So, love AC/DC in the back. Always crack up because of the cool name. Thank you so much. I got to say, your delivery was super fast and poignant, which is amazing. So great presentation on there. I will reiterate what she said in regards to the inclusive nature of all underserved communities having access, a voice, and honestly results, because 7 people in the legislation is results, right, 7? I would add one additional piece. I've met this amazing woman, and I love seeing her every time that we come to these meetings because I get to learn more about the chair. Dean, our Senator, Mr. Heller, was it Heller or no, Amade,
Mark Amade.
would do community breakfasts and it was basically a Latino-based forum to kind of just talk out, what do we think immigration's going, services are going, different things. And it was a very low-key, open conversation. I didn't know that these people were sitting on the legislative board in Carson City. I would tell you if some of them would want to, dedicate some time or volunteer some time to meet at a place and have a breaking of bread to some degree, it would go leaps and bounds to see that somebody's being represented from their own demographic. It's not overly cost prohibitive, and it's a great way because do you remember seeing? I mean, years ago. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I remember her being at the place with Congressman Amade, and it gives. I always thought it was cool to see me or the people that were in that room have an ability to talk to people that could actually put things in front of the legislation and pass bills, or at least talk about them, or say that, you know, these are our wants, our needs, and our hopes. So I would definitely tell you, if you guys talk to them, that having a, you know, a couple people, even one, meet at a location would get a lot of good rapport and direction for them. Obviously, they're not as necessarily maybe as big as a national congressman, but can't hurt.
No, absolutely. I love that idea. That's definitely one of the events that we want to host this year is we want to do a town hall where we have the candidates running for various local offices in Washoe County, and we want to bring them together with community leaders. So, you know, people aren't just a name on a ballot. There's a face and a personality that you can connect to that as well. So I think that's one of the ways that we want to increase participation. So.
Michael Scherzer for the record. I want to thank both of you for presenting. I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can assist me with your voter outreach or anything program, if your voter outreach program?
Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to help us make connections with the local high schools and maybe get into senior classrooms to register them to vote, that was where we found the most success last year. So we've already visited Sparks High, and we visited one classroom at Reed High School, but there's still, you know, many unregistered 18-year-olds and, you know, various high schools around town. So yeah, that would be very appreciated.
That would actually, I think, be helpful for getting young voters. I mean, I grew up in LA, and I remember people talking about registering to vote. I graduated at 17, so it was on top of my mind, but I don't remember a lot of outreach at that time. I mean, it's been a long, long time, but I think that would be, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
T-Tran for the record, thank you so much for your presentation. If you're doing that, I would reach specifically for the We the People classes throughout the entire county. Those are the kids who are, it's like speech and debate on steroids. They're literally getting ready for, they're training for mock congressional hearings. So they're very plugged into understanding the Bill of Rights. Civic engagement is literally, there's an entire unit dedicated to that. There's teams. And so I think if you're going to do that, I'd reach out to each We the People teacher. I think every high school has it as a competition. We compete with the South, and then there's a state representative, and then you go to DC. It's a big deal, but that's where you are going to find kids who already are, you know, have that interest in foundation, and then they can help you get into like the AP history class and the other people, but that's the key to get into the schools. Reed has a really strong team. Reno High School has a strong team. Yeah, they're all there though, so.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we'll definitely reach
You're
out.
welcome.
Colleen, since I'm very good connector, you have just said here for UNR. UNR is also a great place. There's one day, the National Voting Registration Day,
Yes.
and in my day job, that's what I do, my day job. I'm not working, I'm a buyer right now. But National Voter Registration Date, I collect 30 volunteers, very different. I have 5 locations in one day, it was very crazy. This next year, I'm going to do the whole week. But UNR is fantastic because where the kids are, people can vote there. People can, in Nevada, they can register the same day. So it's very important to get to the people who are familiar with civic engagement, but I'm going to give my plane to please teach people who are disengaged. The kids that don't have a clue, they didn't think the voice is not important, because this is in my imagination. Just imagine if you increase by percentage a group of people getting out and vote, and hopefully we keep increasing until we get 99.9%. So we have all the politicians that will listen to us, all of them. We can have breakfast with all of them. And for me, Nevada, I came from California. I moved to Nevada in 2005. In Nevada, you have access to talk to all of them. I really have one-on-ones with almost all of them. They know me, I know their name. I give you hard time, they give me hard time. We agree and disagree sometimes, but it's important because they see that we're paying attention. And one thing that you mentioned, Colin, that I think is very, very important is the people just don't go and vote. The people need to be educated. And if you do the forum, people go listen. Or people just at least, go to the website, listen what the candidate is writing about it, follow how people vote. And you know, this is what I tell people. If you vote wrong the first year, it's okay. Next year, you will remember. So I really appreciate the passion that you have for your job. You only been a few months in your job, and I think you are a star. And I really appreciate you coming to present us and to be here with us. Thank you. Any more questions for somebody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time.
Okay, that was amazing. Two great presentations. Young people are amazing. And the next, of course, we don't have the other presentation, but it's going to schedule next time. So we're going to go for general business. We don't have any general business, no? Okay, wonderful. So item 8, comments for us from the committee. Any comments, guys? Comments, Roberto? Comments for you? Okay, I'm going to have a comment. I don't know what happened yesterday. Monday was super busy. I went to 4 different items, but at the end of the day, yesterday was a vigil for 135 people. They don't have house, and they died 2023. The 2022 was 99 people, so 36 people more died. And when I went to the vigil, they're young kids, 22, 30, 60, 40. I hear 3 Latino names. I mean, I care for all 135. So I feel I'm going to blame myself that I'm not doing enough. And I want to ask you guys that we do enough for next year. We don't have people dying in the streets. I know Reno is very cold, can be snowing one day, next day. So if today you have a nice house, and my house is warm, I have warm my house, my utilities are paid, my rent is paid. So I'm very privileged, and I hope we all have that one too. Thank you. Okay. The next thing is 8.1, request for new future agenda items. No?
Are we ready for community survey update next go round?
Allison McCormick for the record. Hopefully, the next meeting, we should have at least an update. I believe it's in the mail to those randomly selected households, so I hope to have, we won't have a final report yet, but I should have a more substantive update by then for you at least.
So, okay, we're going to have a survey for Cedar Sparks. So Colleen can listen, and just said we're going to have a survey so people can answer questions. Okay. We have staff announcements.
My only announcement is that our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 12th, same time, same place. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comments? We have some visitors here, but they're just paying attention. Thank you so much for being here. And no public comments. We're adjourned. Thank you. This is my favorite part.